Picture this. It's about 10,000 years ago.
You've got a goat. Your neighbor has a beautiful clay pot, the kind you actually need because your last one cracked and now your grain is just on the ground being grain soup.
So you walk over, goat in tow, ready to make a deal. One problem.
She doesn't want a goat. She wants shoes.
You don't have shoes. You have a goat. And a growing sense that this is not going to work. Welcome to the coincidence of wants problem. The single most annoying flaw in barter, and the reason human beings spent thousands of years engineering their way out of exactly this situation.
So here's the real question. The one that's been sitting quietly underneath every wallet, every bank app, every split the bill argument you've ever had. How did we get from a guy standing awkwardly with a goat to you tapping your phone against a machine and walking out with a coffee? No negotiation, no goat, no problem.
Today, we're tracing that whole weird chain. Debt tallies, salt, cowrie shells, coins, paper promises. And the moment money stopped being a thing you could hold and became something you just believe in. Let's start by burning down a myth, because it's a big one. For a long time, economists told a tidy little story. Humans used to barter everything. Direct trade, goat for shoes. And eventually, someone invented money to fix the coincidence of wants problem.
Clean. Logical.
Almost certainly not what actually happened. Anthropologists who've actually studied small-scale societies, the ones without money, the ones we might assume were out here bartering constantly, keep finding the same thing. Barter, as a system where strangers haggle item for item, is rare. What they find instead is debt. Not villain debt, not scary debt.
Just memory. You give your neighbor a fish today because his hunt went badly.
He owes you one. Not literally one fish, just a vague, socially enforced sense that he's in your debt, and someday, somehow, he'll make it right. Nobody's writing this down. Everybody just knows.
That's it. That's the ancestor of money. Not a shiny coin, a memory of who owes who.
Think about your own life for a second. You've probably never bartered a single thing in your entire adult life. Not really.
You've absolutely covered a friend's lunch and thought, they'll get the next one. That fuzzy, unwritten ledger in your head? Same mechanism.
You're running a 5,000-year-old operating system every time you say, don't worry about it, you got me last time. And here's the thing, that system works great in a small village where everyone knows everyone. It falls apart instantly the second your economy gets bigger than people you'd recognize at a funeral. You can't run a trade network across a continent on vibes and a good memory. So humans needed an upgrade, and the upgrade was writing. Some of the oldest written records on Earth aren't poetry. They're not proverbs or prayers.
They're receipts, clay tablets from Mesopotamia, thousands of years old, covered in tallies of grain, livestock, and debts owed to temples and palaces.
Money's oldest ancestor wasn't a coin. It was a spreadsheet. Here's a fun modern wrinkle on that. Researchers digging through Bronze Age sites are still finding these tablets today, and they keep confirming the same unglamorous truth. The invention of money wasn't a lightning bolt moment.
It was bureaucracy. Someone in a temple office thousands of years ago got sick of remembering who owed what and decided to write it down instead.
That's the origin story, not a genius.
A tired accountant. And it's worth pausing on why debt memory eventually breaks.
It's not that people forgot who owed what. It's that the whole system depends on everyone sticking around.
Debt-based trust works when you're going to see that person again. At the well, at the harvest, at the next funeral. The second you're trading with someone from 3 valleys over, someone you'll probably never see again, the whole I'll remember and you'll remember system collapses.
You need something that carries the trust for you, so you don't have to. That's the actual engineering problem humans were solving, over and over for thousands of years. How do you make trust portable?
How do you hand a stranger something that says, "You can believe me," without needing them to actually know you? But you still needed something physical to bridge the gap when debt memory wasn't enough, when you were trading with a stranger, someone outside your web of social trust.
And that's where things get delightfully weird. Enter commodity money.
Basically, pick a thing everybody already wants and let that thing double as currency. Salt is the obvious one, so valuable in the ancient world that Roman soldiers were reportedly paid partly in it, which, fun fact, is genuinely where we get the word salary. Imagine complaining to your boss about a pay cut, except your pay is literally shrinking because it's evaporating.
Cattle worked as currency across huge stretches of the ancient world, too. The Latin word for money, pecunia, comes straight from pecus, cattle. Somewhere out there, a Roman is complaining about the price of bread and cows, trying to figure out how to make change for half a cow, and honestly, we don't want to think too hard about how that worked.
And then there's cowrie shells, small, glossy, shockingly durable, used as currency across parts of Africa, Asia, and the Pacific for literally thousands of years, in some places right up through the 19th and 20th centuries.
Same shell, wildly different continents, all landing on the same idea independently. Find something rare enough to be valuable, common enough to be tradable, and small enough to carry.
That independent invention part is worth sitting with for a second. Nobody was faxing instructions between continents.
Groups of humans who never met, who spoke unrelated languages, who'd never heard of each other's existence, kept arriving at the exact same solution. Pick a small, durable, hard-to-fake object and let it stand in for value.
That's not coincidence. That's just what happens when the same problem, the goat and the pottery, gets solved over and over by people staring at the same wall.
But commodity money has a built-in flaw, and it's the same flaw every version of money eventually runs into: trust. How do you know that salt hasn't been watered down?
How do you know that goat is healthy? You don't.
You're trusting a stranger, and strangers lie.
So somewhere around the 7th century BCE, in a kingdom called Lydia, modern-day Turkey, someone had an idea that would quietly reshape the entire planet. Stamp it. Take a lump of electrum, a natural gold-silver alloy, standardize its weight, and press an official mark into it. That mark wasn't decoration.
It was a promise. It said, an authority has verified this.
You don't have to trust the guy handing it to you. You have to trust the stamp.
That's the coin. And once that idea existed, it spread almost embarrassingly fast. Greece, Persia, Rome, and onward, because it solved the trust problem in one elegant move. You weren't trading goods anymore. You were trading verified promises shaped like little metal discs. If you want to see the myth versus reality beat play out again here, this is a good spot. People imagine ancient coinage as this instantly trusted, universally accepted system.
It wasn't. Coins got shaved, clipped, and counterfeited constantly. People would literally scrape metal off the edges and pocket the shavings, which is exactly why coins eventually got those ridged edges you still see on modern currency.
That ridging isn't decoration either. It's a 500-year-old anti-fraud feature you've been carrying around without ever noticing.
Governments fought back with harsher and harsher penalties. In some periods, counterfeiting a coin was treated the same as forging the king's own signature, punishable by death, because a fake coin wasn't just theft. It was an attack on the promise itself. If the stamp couldn't be trusted, the entire system underneath it started to wobble. That's how seriously ancient states took the idea that money is only as strong as people's belief in it. And coins didn't stay uniform either.
Different city-states, kingdoms, and empires all minted their own versions, at their own weights, with their own stamped authority, which meant early merchants had to become amateur experts in currency exchange just to do business across a border, squinting at a coin from a kingdom 300 miles away, trying to work out if it was worth trusting at face value.
Sound familiar? It's the exact same instinct that makes you check today's exchange rate before a trip abroad.
But even coins had a ceiling. They're heavy. They're limited by how much gold and silver physically exists. Try carrying enough coins to buy a house, and you'll understand why the next leap had to happen.
That leap was paper. And it starts, weirdly, with warehouses. In medieval China, and later in medieval Europe, people got tired of hauling literal chests of coins across dangerous roads, so they started leaving their coins with a trusted party, a goldsmith, a merchant house, an early bank, and taking home a piece of paper that said, essentially, the bearer of this note is owed this much gold on demand. Nobody wanted the gold, really.
They wanted the confidence that the gold was there if they needed it, which meant the paper itself started circulating as if it were the money.
People were trading the promise instead of cashing it in. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you a little. Those early goldsmiths eventually noticed something.
Most people never came back for their actual gold at the same time, so the goldsmiths started issuing more paper notes than they actually had gold sitting in the vault, quietly betting that everyone wouldn't show up demanding it at once.
That's not a footnote in history. That's the literal birth of modern banking. And if you want to trace it further, the eventual root of concepts like bank runs, which are still a real, terrifying possibility today, just with less candlelight involved.
And this is the part where money quietly stops being a thing and becomes an agreement. Fast forward through banknotes, gold standards, and eventually, in the 20th century, countries cutting the last physical thread entirely. Money that isn't backed by gold, isn't backed by anything you can hold, and it's worth something purely because a government says so, and because everyone else agrees to act like that's true.
That's fiat currency, not fake. Fiat, from the Latin for let it be done, a declaration.
A collective, unspoken handshake that this piece of paper, or these digits on a screen, represent value. And once you see it that way, the whole system gets a little dizzying. Every time you tap your card, you're not exchanging goods. You're not even exchanging metal.
You're participating in a 5,000-year-old trust exercise that started with a guy remembering his neighbor owed him a fish. Let's zoom out for a second, because here's the actual big picture. Money was never really about gold or salt or shells or paper. Those were just the costumes it wore in different centuries. What money has always actually been is a technology for trust, a way of letting total strangers cooperate without needing to know each other, like each other, or even speak the same language.
That's the quiet, almost philosophical part of this whole story.
Every economic system humans have ever built, from a village favor ledger to a global banking network, is really just an answer to one question, asked over and over in different costumes. How do I trust you enough to trade with you? Salt was an answer. A stamped coin was an answer. A goldsmith's paper receipt was an answer. Your bank's mobile app is just the latest answer to a question your ancestors were already asking around a fire. The goat and pottery problem never really disappeared, by the way.
It just got automated into invisibility.
Every currency exchange, every payment app, every credit score, that's still just humans trying to solve, how do I trust you enough to trade with you? The exact same problem your ancestors were solving with a memory and a favor owed.
Even the newest experiments in money, digital currencies, apps that let you split a bill with a stranger you met an hour ago, systems built entirely on code instead of gold or paper, are still just new costumes for the same old question.
Different mechanism,
Same 5,000-year-old itch. How do we cooperate with people we don't fully know?
So next time you tap your phone for a coffee, take 1 second to notice what's actually happening. You're not paying with money. You're paying with several thousand years of humans slowly agreeing on what I owe you one should look like. If you had to guess, what's the strangest thing you've heard was once used as real currency?
Drop it below. I promise some of the answers are stranger than salt and shells.